What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Carl coming back at you from Golden Grimmer Productions. This time around, we're going to be reacting to 5 times Larry Bird was injured but refused to quit. If you are new, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. It helps us out tremendously. Larry looked like he had that dog in him, bro. You know what I'm saying? Playing through injuries, something a lot of these NBA players in this time and era don't know nothing about. We're going to get into this video, man.
You know, to his credit, he gets up and fights through it and goes out there and plays, but he is not a healthy person right now.
I've never met an athlete that would play with pain the way he does, and an athlete that's so highly self-motivated as Larry Bird.
I think 4 or 5 years you'll think back about what he did, or you'll just, you'll go that. I think it's one of those things that as the years go by, it'll become bigger and bigger and bigger.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm back with another video, but this time, once again, we have to talk about Larry Legend, one of my favorite players of all time. And I think even the most casual NBA fan knows that Larry Bird in his career was a very tough player, and he overcame tremendous adversity as well as injuries. And I wanted to make a very quick video explaining how tough Larry Bird was and just some of the big time injuries.
Bro, the blood on the jersey is insane, bro. That boy was, man, back issues, bleeding, cut. Probably had broken bones outside of his back. Yeah, bro, dude was tough, bro. But in that era, you had to be that tough. And I think Larry was one of the toughest ones from that era.
He overcame. So with that being said, let's get into the video and look at 5 times Larry Bird overcame injuries and absolutely dominated. So the first injury we're going to look at is from 1979, before Larry Bird was even in the NBA. And this injury occurred in a friendly softball game with Larry Bird's brother as well as friends. And here's Jackie McMullen explain this very bizarre and peculiar injury.
Well, he shows up, and who's on the other team but his brother? So Larry's playing out in the outfield, and his brother hits this kind of spinning, looping ball, almost like a Tim Wakefield knuckleball. It's just spinning all over the place. And Larry tries to go down and make a basket catch, and his finger goes all the way back, and he's like, man, wow, it really hurts. And he looked down, and his finger was completely dislocated and mangled, and he really was bothering him. He had to stop playing right away. And so now remember, he's been drafted by the Celtics during this point, but he has not signed a contract yet. So his finger is in a bad way. He has to have major surgery with clips put in and pins and everything else. And he never tells the Celtics this has happened. But sooner or later they get word, and they summon him to Boston. And the trainer examines him and says, and the team doctor examines him, and they say to Red Auerbach, this guy's damaged goods. Now, Red's like, really? So he says, come on, Larry, get dressed. So Larry puts on his stuff. Red throws him the ball. He goes out. He starts shooting from all over the floor. He's hitting from everywhere. Throws him a few bounce passes, has him throws a few overhead passes, and he said, you look fine to me, kid. And Bird said, great. But Bird to this day will tell you he's never had the same feel for the basketball.
So obviously a pretty bad finger injury that affected Bird for the rest of his life. And around 2010, Larry Bird gave an interview and said this finger to this day is shaped like a boomerang at a 45-degree angle pointing toward his thumb. And he's had 2 surgeries that have failed to straighten it out. But I think the most intriguing thing in that clip is that Larry Bird himself said he never had the same feel for the basketball after this injury. And Bird for his career already was one of the best shooters of all time.
Hey, yo, like what? So not only, bro, he could have been even better had he not had that injury. Dog, he was phenomenal with a crazy injury that lasted him for like basically the rest of his life that he's gonna have to just deal with. And he still was giving them boy. He was giving them buckets, bro. That man different.
He was the first player ever to win the 50-40-90 club, and he routinely shot over 90% from the line. But with that being said, Bird actually could have been a better shooter than he was in the NBA if it wasn't for that devastating finger injury. Now, next up on the Bird injury list, we go to his back, one of the worst injuries a player could ever have. And this injury for Bird occurred in 1985 in the middle of his prime. And here's his doctor, as well as a few commentators, talking about how tough Bird was and how difficult it was for him to even play a basketball game.
Larry had 2 jobs his last 7 years of playing. It was playing basketball, and then
I wonder, does Larry still deal with back issues to this day? Probably, but probably not to the extent of when he was playing. But I wonder, is it like something that he constantly deals with on a day-to-day basis, even though his playing days are long since gone and over with? But I'd be curious if somebody could find a video where Larry talks about his back issues currently and drop it in the comment section below. Let me know. I want to review that and see what's to that. You know what I'm saying?
If you get paid to go to work, you got to go to work.
It was a situation that he was seeing almost daily. He had lost the structural stability in his spine, so it would slip into abnormal positions to try and lock itself to get an artificial stability. That's like getting your finger stuck in a door and somebody's still pushing on the door. So what we had to do was unlock his spine, realign it, do techniques that would hold that for 4 hours, 6 hours, that type of thing, and then he'd go play basketball.
So obviously that back injury was pretty devastating for Bird, and it kind of marked the end of his prime. But even with that being said, Bird in his last 7 seasons still put up tremendous stats, averaging 25.1 points per game, 9.3 boards, 7.0 assists on near 50-40-90 splits. Those stats right there from an offensive perspective are still some of the best stats of all time. And once again show Bird could handle pain like few athletes ever. And one of the most remarkable things I've ever heard comes from Larry Bird's former teammate, that being Robert Parrish. According to Parrish, Larry Bird never took painkillers, pills, or any shots in his entire career. Bird simply toughed it out and showed mental toughness as well as physical toughness and played basketball at the highest level for 7 more years. Now also one thing Larry Bird was known for in his career was being mentally tough. And here's a quick story from Kevin McHale talking about Larry Bird's mental toughness after being stuck down in an airport for 10 straight hours.
Back then when we flew commercial, we didn't fly private, we played in a Tuesday night game in Cleveland. And of course we got up for the first flight out. We had a game on Wednesday night in New Jersey. Snowstorm hits Cleveland. We're at the airport at 7 in the morning. Flight's canceled at 7. It's canceled at 8. It's canceled at 9. It's canceled at 10. Canceled at 11, 12. We finally leave about 1:30 or 2 in the afternoon. We fly up to New Jersey. Now the storm has kind of moved into Jersey. And the bus driver says, well, I can't get to the hotel into the arena, but I can only go to one place. Well, we had a game that night. We go to the arena. So we get to the arena, and I mean, we're dragging. And we're sitting around the locker room, and, and everybody's kind of, we're tired. And, and all of a sudden, the coach gives a little bit of a speech of, come on, man, guys, we're playing basketball. Let's get ready to go. And Larry stands up, and Larry says, a couple other few choice words, and he says, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to take it out on their rear ends. So I was like, oh, all right, so let's go. So we go on the floor. Elbert King sitting there, and Larry walks up to Elbert King and goes, don't take this butt whooping personally. I've been eating hot dogs all day. And then Albert King looks at him like, you've been eating hot dogs all day? What's that got to do with me? And we went out and just hammered him. I mean, we terrorized him. And that was Larry. There was no excuses. I mean, he just played. And I tell you, that was just his competitive nature. But a day when you fly all day and eat hot dogs in the airport, best thing was Albert's look on his face like, what hot dogs got to do with me?
And that story from Kevin McHale, for the most part, is pretty comical, but I think it still shows Larry Bird had extreme mental toughness, and when it came to playing basketball, he would give it his best every single night. And I actually went back to Larry Bird's game charts, and I found this game.
Bro, watching him fall is so, it just looked painful, bro. Like, it looked painful today, so I can only imagine with, like, ailing back issues, any kind of contact probably just made his whole body hurt, and he still willed through and was putting up MVP numbers.
From 1986 on April 13th. In this game, Boston beat New Jersey by 28 points. Larry Bird had 26, 4, and 3 on 64% shooting, and he didn't miss a single three-pointer or a single free throw. And what makes it even more impressive to me is this game versus New Jersey was the last game of the season. Bird could have easily packed it in and waited for the playoffs, but still, he wanted to play this game for his teammates as well as his coaches. And that year in 86, Larry Bird didn't miss a single game, playing all 82. And if you compare that mindset from Bird to the modern day players, it's simply night and day. I pretty much guarantee you, any modern day superstar will 100% sit out that game and rest for the playoffs, but not Larry Bird.
And that's what makes the view of this era's players and versus the older players. It's like Larry didn't take a day off, even when he could have. He had a choice. Who was gonna tell Larry Bird he couldn't, he had to play, but he still willed through it, even though the playoffs were right around the corner. That's different, yeah. Because players this day, boy, Look at Kawhi Leonard, for instance, bro. You don't know when he gonna play, but come to the playoffs. And I think that does a lot for players in general. Like, I think if you play, it keeps you sharp and in rhythm. So when you get into the playoffs, you're already battle hardened from the season versus sitting and being fresh, but with your legs aren't under you though. But that's just my opinion.
Talking about Larry Bird in his prime, 1980 to 86, really before his big time injuries, he played 561 out of 574 games. He played all 82 games 3 times and over 36 minutes per game every single year. In 2 years, he actually led the NBA in minutes per game. So back in the day, Larry Bird, if he could walk, he was 100% suiting up and playing basketball. But the one time in Bird's career where he simply could not play was in 1989. This year, Larry Bird had severe bone spurs, he had what many people thought was a broken foot, and he had double Achilles surgery. And back in the day, an Achilles injury could possibly be the end of your career. But once again, not for Larry Bird, as the following year, he had a very great and underrated season, averaging 24.3 points per game, 9.5 boards, 7.5 assists, while playing 75 games at 39.3 minutes per game, while leading the NBA in free throw percentage. So even after all those injuries, Larry Bird once again came back to all-star form, and he overcame double Achilles surgery. Now the last Bird injury we have is in 1991, and this injury is also the last great Larry Bird moment in the 91 playoffs versus the Indiana Pacers. And to kind of set the stage, in this series, Boston, they were heavily favored, but in games 1 through 4, Bird was not playing up to par, only averaging 18 points per game, 9 assists, 8 boards, on 37% shooting and 11% from 3. And back in the day in the first round, it was a best-of-5 series, so Game 5 was a winner-take-all game. And near halftime of this game, Larry Bird would go down with a severe head injury, possibly a broken cheekbone, as well as a mild concussion.
Right here, the swipe knocks it free. Bird on the floor, then left hand keeps it alive, but he stays down for a long time. What effort by Larry Bird.
And Larry Bird is headed directly to the locker room for treatment.
But in typical Larry Bird fashion, he would tough it out and come back in the middle of the third quarter.
And here comes Larry Bird. But certainly this out of the pages of Willis Reed in Game 5 of the championship series involving the Knicks and the Lakers in 69-70.
And in this Game 5 in the Boston Garden, from that moment on, Larry Bird would dominate for the remaining 18 minutes of that game, having 17 points, 7 boards, and 5 assists, on 60% shooting, leading Boston to a 3-point win. And that Game 5 versus Indy was the last great Larry Bird moment as he overcame injury and dominated in that second half. So with that being said, that is the end of the video. Let me know your guys' thoughts. How tough do you think Larry Bird was?
I think Larry, as a bro, like the mentality, the mindset, like for him playing 82 games as many times as he did, I don't even really think there's any major superstars to date right now who have played recent 82 game seasons. You know what I'm saying? So I like this video. There's more videos that I want to check out about Larry Bird, bro. It's been fun. But until the next one, it's been your boy Carl from Golden Grimmett Productions. Peace.